several months ago, it's never going to line up with what we want to do. So again, I think the major frustrations that I have and my sense is that you have, they're not going to be resolved until we have some new faces in Washington.
But see, a lot of us are just as disgusted with the Republicans.
Right.
We are.
That's why I ran. I mean, I think Republicans spent too much money.
I am so disappointed
Yeah.
in what has just happened. And, and this gentleman, he's talking about the jobs, and everybody in Washington seems to be talking about the jobs, but it doesn't seem like, it seems like they're talking about him to get reelected.
Well,
And not.
But you understand now why. Their idea of job growth is different than, say, the House Republican view
But,
of
like
job
I said,
growth.
the
So that's
Republicans
the
are
problem.
divided on so many things, and we've got a major split in the Republican Party, and it's just about driving me back to independent status. Back to.
Well, I will tell you, in Washington, it's Republicans are the minority still in the town because 2/3 beats 1/3 every time you go to the negotiation table. So I will tell you that from the House perspective, we are united. I don't know about this state business, but certainly at the federal level. And most of us are relatively new. The reason we ran was we were equally frustrated with the mess that Republicans made when they had unfettered power, as we were the mess that the Democrats made when they had unfettered power. And we feel like if we could just wait through one more election cycle, we will get to fix the problems the right way. Rather than to negotiate away, half the jobs if we would do it today. But I understand the frustration. I'm equally upset.
I hear you. Everybody's talking about creating jobs. What about the jobs that we already have? They're gone. Why don't they bring those back? Either that or tax the stuff coming back into the country. That's so cheap.
Well, it's not. That's the problem. That's why we need the free trade agreements and fundamental tax reform.
Yeah, but free trade is already taking all our jobs out of here.
I'm wearing a
no,
pair of
it
Levi's
hasn't.
that was made in Egypt.
Right. What we need to do is sell our corn
That's not right.
and our wheat and our products to other nations without being punished accordingly. And we can do that through the tax code. Right now, there is cash sitting offshore that if we would bring it back to corporations here in America, they could create some jobs. But because we punish them through our tax code, that money's not coming back. We're not going to see any job growth, I believe, until we do fundamental tax
Well,
reform.
why don't you tell these companies to move to the country where they're at?
Well, they are, and that's why we're in the mess we're in.
Yeah, like I said.
We don't have jobs unless somebody creates
Yeah.
them.
We don't have, I don't think there's any jean manufacturer that is in the States anymore, or in North America.
We've driven them all away.
Yeah,
We tax them too much, we regulate them too much, and we sue them at every turn until we put policies in place. I think Washington's job is to create an environment that is pro-business so they can create the jobs and get our people back to work, pay them well, treat them well. Until we do that, the growth is going offshore because other nations don't do that to people.
They're moving to dictatorships.
They'll go anywhere where they're treated better than here.
Hey, I have just one more question.
Sure.
I was reading online the other day. We built 3 ships for the Navy in 1985 at the expense of $300 million. Now they're going to scrap them. And guess where they're going to scrap them? The UK is going to get $10 million.
Because they can do it cheaper?
It don't matter whether they can do it cheaper or not.
No,
They
that's
just-
how our system is done. RFPs are given to the low bidder. And if we
But
have a
why-
higher tax system and we regulate people too much so that it puts people out of business
But-
and then we sue them, I would make a ship somewhere else too.
But why are we letting other countries have our contracts? That's just like the plane.
I don't think we should. I think we need to change the laws in this nation to make us competitive. We can compete with anybody
Yeah,
if
but
given
how
a
did
level
this-
playing field.
We have the laws. Where did they go to?
Over time, they've been eroded, and we keep taxing people. These regulators, within the last 2 years, I have heard more horror stories about regulators' overreach than anything else, even more than taxation.
Well, what I'm afraid of what you see in London, and all these people that rioted, they're the ones that don't have jobs. In this country, keep it up,
Yeah,
and that's gonna happen here.
I agree. We're in a
Probably have
terrible
one
situation.
over here.
Okay, how about you two? You go first and then you can be our closer.
All right, I want to ask the people in this room, how many of you people drive foreign vehicles? Hold your hands up.
Well, the engines are made elsewhere
But the
too.
profits go overseas. We've got to support America ourselves. We're blaming everybody else, but when you go to buy something, why don't you buy USA if possible?
Yeah.
And then you create a job here, but when you buy from some other country, you don't expect that job to reflect back here because the profits go over there and the job goes over there both. So we all got to look at what we're doing to begin with, and we're pointing our fingers at everybody else, and you're gonna have to start pointing your finger at yourself and get honest with yourself. Do we want to save this country, or do we want to just keep buying stuff from overseas because it's a tiny bit cheaper? And we created our own problem by ourselves to begin with. Now, politics in Washington, this man here has hit it right on the head.
Right.
I agree with him 1,000%. And this tort reform, they couldn't even put that in the health care bill.
I know.
And it just makes you sick to think that what's in Washington, I'm not counting you, but
Right.
what the establishment
I know.
is trying to destroy this country, and they're doing a good job of it.
Right.
Well,
And we're going to
anyway.
fight tooth and nail, because you're right, we all have an opportunity to buy American, but I still think if you saw two things on the shelf and one was made in America and one was made someplace else, if we would change the laws in our nation, I believe we can compete with anybody and make that the same price or less than somewhere else. It's just, I understand our input costs are just too much. We have tied both hands behind folks' back and asked them to compete with these other nations. So, we all have a part to play, but I really blame the majority of it on the policies that are coming out of Washington. So I'm not giving up that fight.
All right, several things. First, the SSI, do they not pay more of the illegal aliens and their expenses, the medical and job-related, than Social Security?
Can they get SSI, the illegals? Yeah.
I was thinking that they did. Okay, number two, I have the solution for you guys.
Great!
Leave your politics at home and stop arguing like kindergartners who are spoiled. And that's exactly what is going on. It's ridiculous. And it's just so frustrating to listen to that nonsense and stop blaming each other. Here again, it sounds like a bunch of spoiled kids. It's their fault. It's their fault. No, it's his fault. It's take responsibility and work together. And I realize we've got too many people. Maybe we should cut the numbers in half. Maybe you guys could work together then.
I don't disagree. I just, having been there day in and day out, I just see there are people across the aisle that just see the world differently. And while we all want the same thing, we want everybody insured, we want a balanced budget. We want the same things and our goals are the same, and we are friendly to one another when you don't see us in theater on some committee. When it comes down to solving the nation's challenges, though, we just see it so differently. It's hard to find any common ground. But your point is well taken. We need to get over it in the short run until the players change.
Well, let's get the
Well,
politics out of it.
Yeah.
Lynn, that's why you need to lead for us. That's why we're here. You need to lead for us. You got common sense values. You're a good farm kid, and you need to go there and lead for us. We've had great Kansans that were politicians. Bob Dole could reach across the aisle with anybody, and he could get something done for the good of Kansas. Nancy Lynn and Castlebaum could reach across the aisle and make good things happen. You can be a leader for us, not caught in the quagmire. Rise above that and do some good things for Kansas and be a leader.
Well, I will promise you, I am going to do just that on these 3 free trade agreements, because obviously we need Democrats to support that. And I think that's the single thing that I can do to have the most direct effect on our district in the state of Kansas, and anything else between now and the end of the year. So that is going to be my #1 focus, to work across the aisle and to get those things ratified, and to get especially our ag producers, competitive again. We've got another bill, a tariff bill, working with the other side of the aisle. Again, will have great impact to our nation and our district most particularly. Nothing's going to happen unless I do reach across the aisle in this next year and a half. So you have my promise that I will do everything within my power to make that happen. Do we have? Okay, just maybe 2 real quick. We have to be to the next one.
The Republicans shot themselves in the foot when the Republican leaders got up and said, we're not going to raise taxes. And we know GE and dozens more are not paying any taxes. I've got Republican friends that say we're not voting Republican again. So we're going to lose Republicans.
Yeah, I just want to correct that. We aren't, I think, I try not to go on those news programs because you always say the wrong thing. But there's some that do. What Republicans are for, I will tell you what we're for, is the tax reform, to eliminate the loopholes, get the folks back to work and on the...
That's what people say here and read.
Yeah, and so to say that we're not for tax reform and to look at those things is inaccurate in my view. So don't believe everything you hear on the TV.
I've got a question. The question is my wife, of course, works for a company that was bailed out, okay?
Okay.
She's not overly proud of that, but she still works for the company. Her office is basically being dismantled, and it's not because of, let's say, because the funds weren't there that opened up the businesses, because that same company that we bailed out moved an office into Malaysia. Okay? They told them that they were highly educated and they can pay them cheaper. And because they were all college graduates, that this would be done. Their office, which of course is up in Kansas City, and I can't really say where, but their office, and they also have another office down in Georgia. This office now is being dismantled completely, and all the work is going to Malaysia. Now, here's the problem that I see is that we bailed out these companies that is an American company, and they're taking it by their hands and doing this. They're basically becoming a call center because the corporations in the United States do not want them to know, as an insurance company, that they are doing business outside of the country. Okay? Well, so they have to answer the phone calls that they're doing the work over there for now, because they don't want them to know that the Malaysians can't speak English to talk to them. Okay?
No, you've reinforced a couple points. Number one, bailouts never work.
Right.
No one should ever support a
The
bailout.
same company that was bailed out has corporations in, let's say, Canada that are doing business with them, which are supposed to be doing it in Canada for their people, and they are actually doing all the work in the United States and having Canada people answer their questions.
Yeah.
So that it's and
You
her
just
office is
reinforced
completely
the
gone.
need for major changes in policies in this country. Is there anyone in here that thinks we can't compete internationally? I didn't think so. So that tells me all we need to do is get the right balance of the taxation, regulation, and litigation, and we will kick butt.
Get the unions under
Well, I am sorry, we are moving on to Lebo next, but I do thank you for caring enough about coming out. If we didn't get to your question or concern, you have to call us or write us a letter, shoot us an email so that we can address whatever concern that you have. And don't wait for me to come to town. If something pops up, you need help, We have a great staff. I have the best staff known to man. They stand ready to help you.
If anyone